Hi everyone, I'm Toby from Ealing and Hounslow CVS. Thank you all for joining me today. We've got loads of people coming through today, which is great. We've got a really packed agenda today. We didn't have a meeting in December, so we've got loads more on the agenda today. I'm just letting a few more people in. And we've probably got some faces we don't know, people who haven't attended in the past, which is lovely. So welcome to everyone who is new. But if we can all just start off by putting our name and our organisation in the chat, just so we can keep a record of who's attending, and yeah, be really helpful, particularly today as we've got lots of people who are joining us to find out about the Ealing Large Grants Programme. So I'm just going to wait 2 more minutes and then we will start, as we've got such a packed agenda today.
Oh,
Right, I'm just going to check that Wanda is here, because I know she was having some IT problems. She was going to talk about the Ealing Large Grants Programme, but if she hasn't made it through, I'm sure she'll be joining us shortly and we can move her down the agenda. I'm just having a look. Can't see her just yet, but I'm sure she's on her way. So, okay, and if I can just remind everyone to pop themselves on mute, as we do have so many people on this meeting. Right, let's start with Michael from Cooth Counselling, and he's going, and then we can go back to Wanda as soon as she joins us. But yes, Cooth has been is rolling out giving a counselling service to young people in Ealing. I know it's been in some other boroughs of the Northwest London CCG, but yeah, I'm really pleased that it's now available to young people in Ealing. So Michael, thank you for joining us, and yeah, great to have an update.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. So just to introduce myself and my role, I lead on Cooth across North West London at a sort of service level, so working with any professionals or services that support children and young people and help to integrate Cooth support, as we are commissioned by the North West London Collaborative.
our meeting has started.
And then also working directly with schools as well in supporting their whole school approach to wellbeing. But today is kind of just a brief summary of the service and then an engagement update. So just go ahead and share my screen. So just to kind of provide a quick refresher, that we launched in Ealing in June 1st of 2021. And what we provide is free online counselling that can be accessed every day of the year, on weekdays from 12 until 10 p.m. and then on weekends 6 until 10 p.m. We're not just about counselling, so we are an anonymous service where young people can receive peer-led support as well on a supportive and inclusive community. And it's not just about mental health. There are a range of different topics that young people can discuss, which are affecting young people. We don't have any waiting lists, criteria, or limit to our support, so young people can engage in Cooth as much as they like to, or as little as they'd like to. And then we also do provide self-help tools, so we have such things like a journal that young people can engage with, wellbeing activities that they can implement into their day-to-day life, and our goal setting tool as well. So we provide a therapeutic mental health toolkit for young people who have a choice over what support they'd like to access. And just 3 really key parts of Cooth that we can be extended to all children and young people aged 11 to 25 as instant access to mental health support. Incorporated into support and waiting lists, or to be accessed as additional support when a young person is engaged with a mental health service, and then incorporated into a referral pathway or step down support and care plan, so that young people are placed with Cooth after completing a course of therapy. And we are a self-referral service as well. So currently looking at our engagement and integration. To break it down, our core areas since the mobilisation has been looking to integrate COOF within the local authority and NHS services, with a particular focus on mental health services. So Q1 was a widespread launch, of course, raising awareness and promotion of the service. Q2 from July to September, predominantly focused on the integration between COOF and CAMS and wider mental health and healthcare services. And then Q3 witnessed a more schools focused approach, of course, in line with schools returning in September as well. And then currently in Q4, we're looking at priority areas. So schools that would benefit most from COOF support and a more tailored support package to them. So working directly with possibly their mental health or DSL to ensure that COOF's best utilised with its school support package. So looking at our workshops, our assembly presentations, mental health campaigns and resources as well. The course areas which we're engaging with, this is not all, but just to give a brief run through of CAMS, GPs, mental health support teams, principal educational psychologists, IAPT, EGFL, local offer, Ealing PCF, Ealing Senior Management Children's Team, Ealing's OT team, Ealing Speech and Language team, currently looking to work with Youth Justice and directly linked in with 8 schools at this time. But more schools will have awareness of us. So to look at some feedback and usage, that since June 1st, we supported 271 service users and there was 867 logins to us as a digital mental health service. The majority of the young people that we are seeing are from the 14 to 17 cohort, and 100% feedback received and would recommend the service. We are most accessed out of hours, showing that COOF is really well placed to support children and young people who are in need of mental health support, possibly when they're at home or finished work, school or college. Our top heard froms are coming from schools, college and CAMS, and our sub-locations where we are most used is Southall Broadway, Southall Green, Northolt Mandeville, Northolt West End, Hanger Hill, Ealing Broadway. Great to see that Ealing has really taken up the COOF offer with regard to our resources. So they are on par with, I believe it is Westminster for resources, so particularly to schools and mental health services as well. And this is just kind of a breakdown of one of our monthly reports, and it gives us an insight to the service users demographics, sublocations and age as well. And of course, they're presenting issues and needs. So the kind of bottlenecks and support needed at this time would basically be raising awareness to children and young people so that they can access free instant mental health support, because that's our goal. Free support that's available to all whenever needed. Secondly is to ensure that services are aware that they can utilise COOF in whatever way they would like to, whether it may just be a case of highlighting the waiting list or incorporating a care plan. And then effectively using staff resources. So where I cover the rest of West London, making sure that I'm working in a smarter practice. So with as many services as possible to streamline our engagement. So just wanted to highlight that as well, so that it's a fair representation of where we're at. So I'll just kind of close it there for any questions, and thank you so much for inviting me today.
That's great. Thank you very much, Michael. Really interesting. Yeah, anyone got a question regarding COOF and the service? If anyone's got anything, please go ahead. Oh, I think I've got some hands up here. Let me just got a lot of people. Latvia, you've got a question.
Hi, thank you. I think it was really interesting, and it's great to see that it's taken off so quickly, if I can say that, and well received. Just a couple of questions really. One was around this number of service users. There was so much information on one of the slides, it was difficult to see how many unique service users there actually are. And I think I saw that there were more young girls or girls who are the new users rather than boys. I just wonder, what was your understanding as to why that might be?
I think this kind of comes back to sort of historical, societal and cultural trends in regards to there being a stigma facing young men accessing mental health support. We do a lot of work, given that we are an anonymous service, to help with the normalising of young men access and mental health support. So in November, we did a really good collaborative piece with Papyrus, looking at our suicide prevention strategy and how they support with suicide. So there is a really big focus on that. And I think some really key parts to highlight is kind of where we're reaching out to young men in certain spaces. So a really interesting piece of work that we're currently taking on a national level is looking at hairdressers, for example, because there is if you ever look at them, the Lions Barber Collective, they do a lot of good work with young men's mental health, and obviously kind of sporting organisations as well. But yeah, I think that is kind of a prevalent theme across our 8 Northwest England boroughs. We do see the majority of service users are female opposed to male. But to actually provide kind of an insight from data, we are seeing an increase in males.
That's really, really interesting. Thank you.
Richard, you've got a question.
Yeah, thank you. Again, very interesting. And I'll reach out to Michael about other boroughs. But my main question is, how are you engaging and supporting LGBTQ plus young people? And are you working with any of the dedicated LGBTQ plus organisations on that? I noticed in the statistics there, you identified, I think, three people identified themselves as gender fluid and 2 agender, which is interesting and encouraging. That was my question, really.
Yeah, no, happy to expand upon this. So we do work with a number of LGBT organisations, namely Mosaic, for example. And when I did highlight on the site, we're not just specifically mental health. So we are a supportive and inclusive mental health community. And one of the features of the site is on all things LGBTQIA+. So young people from this community can come online and engage with other young people in this area. So on the site, there is specific support. I think this kind of largely ties into schools and engaging with them on key dates. So, of course, LGBT History Month and Pride Month as well, to help raise awareness. And we also run a workshop on this too. So I think it's kind of highlighting those different areas of support in line with key dates as well. And yeah, I don't know if you want me to expand further on this, but
that's great. I may contact you outside about take that offline for a bit more detail, but it sounds like you're doing great stuff. I'd be interested in maybe any specific barriers, for example, schools which don't allow you to publicize some of these aspects of the service. Hopefully there isn't, but I'd be quite keen to know about that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think it's also important to mention that where I referenced the work that I went, because I'm the lead on my team for young men's mental health, the lead on our team is doing a national piece on our support for LGBT young people. So I think that'd be an interesting piece of work, because this is where we can integrate our support with specific services and raise awareness. So that'd be another really good point to pick up.
Yeah.
We've got one last question from Dee, because we've got such a packed agenda to get through today. And also seen there's a question, Michael, saying if you're able to share the slides, if that is possible, if you can just ping them to me and I can circulate.
Cool.
Okay, Dee, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, sorry, I'm really Deirdre. It's just my name on the tablet's Dee. Hi, I'm from Bereavement Counselling in Ealing. And I just was interested, obviously, to hear about Cooth. You said it's listed on the agenda as Cooth Counselling. What element is really trained counsellors working with you?
So we are a BACP accredited service, and our counsellors are BACP accredited or from another organisation. They are paid, and we also have a collective of emotional wellbeing practitioners and online moderators too. So where this is relevant is kind of on the community side of things to measure everything that's on the site. So everything's pre-moderated, so they can review all of our content posted by young people as well. Within this, we also have, to advise our online team, a safeguarding team, senior practitioners, and a collective of our clinical team as well, to provide more sort of clinical guidance on interventions to be used, because our clinical framework follows that of the I Thrive CAMS framework, but ours is called the I Respond model. I hope that helps.
Right, I'm really interested that you're BACP accredited. That's Cooth, North West London, altogether, as it were.
Across the UK, we're one, I think there's very few services that have a BACP accreditation, and we follow their ethical guidelines with that.
Right, no, very pleased to hear it. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you very much, Michael. It's great to get that update and see developments. So thank you very much for that. So now we're going to move on to another online initiative. Oh, and also need to just wanted to add that today is actually Mental Health Awareness Day. So it's great we're discussing all these initiatives, and later on in the year, when it's Mental Health Awareness Month in May, we are planning to do some initiatives ourselves as a group, but we've got plenty of time to prepare for that. So now we've got Tom Carlisle talking about the Best for You app.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me today. It's great to be able to come and talk to you about the Best for You programme. So we're not an app in itself, but part of Best for You is a significant digital service. So I'll talk you through the whole thing, and then hopefully leave time to talk at the end. I'll just share my screen, pop these slides up. Okay, so just a quick overview first. My name's Tom Carlisle. I'm Digital Innovation Fellow at CW+, and CW+ is the charity for Chelsea and Westminster hospitals. The Best for You programme is a partnership. So Chelsea and Westminster as the acute trust in the partnership, and we're partnered up with CNWL and West London as well. And the origin for Best for You was really, it came from one of our charity board members who's had personal experience of mental health services through a family member, a young person in his family, and approached us a while ago now, actually, a couple of years ago, saying he'd really like to help in this area. He thinks he was in a position to raise some money, and approached our charity to help find the most appropriate way to spend it. CW+, Chelsea and Westminster, mental health isn't our sort of main area, hence the partnership approach. So Best for You, in a nutshell, the idea is to help improve services across North West London, and that's both physical and virtual services. So we're working on improving the sort of physical resources, I suppose, in improving our inpatient facilities at Chelsea and Westminster. We're also looking at building a new day service unit. We're hoping that this will be complete by the end of the year, or sorry, not the end, middle of this year, hopefully. The day service will be a walk-in centre, or could act as a step-down facility, so helping people move out of those inpatient services sooner when they're ready to, rather than being experiencing delayed discharges. Or it could be a way that we're looking at avoiding admissions in the first place. So, for example, we're expecting a lot of eating disorders patients to come through the day service. in order to keep them in their homes and among their family and friends, rather than admitting them to residential services which may not even be, you know, in the area. And the digital side of things is the part that I'll mostly talk about today, and that's because we've been able to race ahead with digital. We're not reliant on bricks and mortar, so we've been able to launch a few digital services quite quickly, and we've got plans to continue introducing more. And one of the things that we'd like to work with you on really is shaping the direction that takes. So as I say, the digital side of things, we've launched a website, which the address there is on the screen, and we've also launched a apps library, which anyone can access and use. This is in partnership with an organisation called Orca, who review and vet clinical apps, not just mental health apps. So it solves that problem of having, you know, hundreds of thousands of healthcare apps unvetted, and you're not really sure of the quality or the effectiveness. Well, all of the apps on the Orca app library have been through an assurance process. They're safe, they're effective, and they are suitable for recommending to patients, family, friends, etc. There's also a pro license to that, which we'd be happy to share with all of you if you'd like to use that library to make recommendations of apps to service users that you contact or that use your services. We'd be really open to opening that up. So this is just a few statistics really on the digital offer since it launched just before Christmas last year. So we've had a decent number of visits to the apps library and to the website itself. We've got a fantastic social media manager who's helping us kind of get the word out via Twitter and Facebook and all of that. We're doing really well on social media engagement at the moment. It seems to be where a lot of young people are open to, I suppose, looking for these sorts of services and engaging in that way. I suspect our numbers will come down. I think we've benefited from a very good, well-publicised launch. But even so, we're very happy with the engagement rate at the moment. So that's something that we'll be working more on in the future, is delivering more through social media. I'll just give a quick overview of the day service because this is coming later in the year. We've secured a site for it, so building works will begin imminently. And as I say, we're hoping this will be open by the middle of the year. Again, this is so in addition to the kind of digital side of things, there are opportunities to engage with the day service. We're really keen not to kind of duplicate effort, you know, essentially tread on toes and do things that people in the area are already doing perfectly well. So if you're if this strikes you as, you know, this is a space that you could use or that you would like to access, or you could think of ways for it to tie in with your services, do let me know. That's something that we're open to. I won't dwell on this, but we're reaching out as part of that effort, not to duplicate effort and more to work collaboratively and join services together. We're working with a lot of partners in Northwest London. So we're working with NHS organisations, obviously, but also private sector partners like Kooth. So we're in the early days of working together with Kooth, but we're already promoting them on our website. We have links through to CAM services. We're working with YouTube. I can't remember the terminology they use, but we're working on becoming one of their trusted sources, and that means that people that search for mental health information would have us kind of floated to the top as a reliable information. And it goes wider. We're talking to the Chelsea football team and lots of other charities in the area. I won't repeat that, sorry, I meant to take that out. So these are our timelines. I'll just call your attention really to the main ones. So the inpatient development, which I mentioned at the start, is probably the trickiest and the one that we're expecting to take the longest in terms of building and developing. The day service, as I say, we're expecting to begin building work imminently and open that towards the middle of this year. And the digital side of things, we're continuing to expand out. So we think, or possibly the next area that we're going to work on is helping to join services more fluidly. So when people are referred from one to the other, we're providing information on what that next service is and what to expect, so that there's less stress as people move around the system. So that's the end of my talk. I'm going to stop sharing, but what I wanted to end on was an offer and an ask, really. So in terms of the digital side of things, as I say, we're happy to offer like free pro licenses to anyone that would like to use our apps library. If you work in an area where you think it would be useful to be able to refer people to safe vetted apps, we'd like to offer that to all of you, and we can offer training on how you can do that and the best way to make use of it. Also, in terms of our website and the reach that we're getting on social media, we'd be really pleased to work with you and your organisations on amplifying both of our voices. So sharing announcements, perhaps contributing. We'd love to have people contribute articles, videos, blogs to the website, and in that way amplify each other's voices. It was on the slide, but I didn't talk through it, but we've also got a volunteers program, which has just kicked off. If there are events happening in the area, we'd like to send our volunteers along. They will all be trained up on the digital side of things, so that apps referral again, but we're also putting them through Shout's training course for telephone counsellors, so they'll all be hopefully an asset at any open events that you're organising. And secondly, as I say, on the physical space, we'd just love to hear if we're open to ideas, essentially. If you'd like to find out more about using that day centre space, or you have suggestions.
Where is the day centre going to be? Are you able to?
Should have said that. So the space we've secured is it's actually opposite the Chelsea Hospital on Fulham Road. It's in a building called Verney House. We always wanted it near there because we wanted the option to, people turning up in A&E that, needn't or shouldn't be there. We thought it would be a good way to, just come over the road for a more appropriate conversation and environment. So yeah, Fulham Road. I'll stop there.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. It's very exciting to hear about all that developments. Anyone got any questions for Tom?
I have a question. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Tom. Could you please?
I saw her in the chat, Shanjit. I'll pop my contact details in there.
Thank you, Tom. Could you please explain more about engagement? How the people engage through social media, or do they share your story, your post? What kind of audience do you have? How they engage?
Yeah, if our social media manager was here, she'd do a much better job. But so what we found is that different platforms are better for different audiences. So we're finding that Twitter is a really good place to engage with other professionals and kind of let those that are active and interested in children and young people's mental health. Facebook, we're finding really good for contacting parents. So we've done a limited run of Facebook advertising just to dip our toe, really, and have been really pleasantly surprised with the number of views that we've had of our adverts and the number of click-throughs that's resulted into our website. Engaging with young people has been different kettle of fish, I suppose. So what we've been slow to move on, but I think we will do more of, is TikTok. We were reluctant to get into originally, but we've got colleagues who are getting really good engagement from young people through TikTok. And as I said, that partnership on YouTube as well. I couldn't give you the numbers, unfortunately, but I think
it would be great if perhaps your social media manager could come to another meeting. It'd just be really interesting to explore that side of the process and engagement. So yeah, I think it would be great if you could connect me to them.
I'd be happy to. Yeah,
yeah, that'd be really good if they can come back.
Yeah, it's been an education working with us. So yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Shanji, you've got a question.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Tom, I've got a question for you. I mean, this is brilliant idea, brilliant services. Have you ever thought of the young students or younger generation to give them an opportunity to work with the charity work and trained older senior citizens with the young skills as well? Also volunteer with the organizations as well. So it'll be a brilliant platform for the young students to work with the charity work, learn the skills, also teach the skills. So it'll be both ways. I mean, all the organizations also always have volunteering opportunities, every type of skills and every type of volunteering opportunities for the youngsters to engage and learn the lifelong skills and teach us the skills as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the volunteer program, although it's been it's only just gotten live, I suppose, in the last couple of weeks, but we were always clear that we wanted the volunteers to be younger people. I think when you're talking to the service users, it makes a difference being able to relate to the volunteers. Also, we've been working in particular with one school at the moment, but we want to do a lot more of this. But Marlborough School, we asked their students to design the T-shirts for our volunteers. So that they're all in the process of being printed. And a bit more, this was more kind of a chance opportunity, but we've had students, data science students from UCL approach us, and we're just in the process of kind of getting them involved in doing a bit more, I suppose, like data-led targeting. Like this is really early days, but looking at publicly available data and seeing if we can use that to target our efforts more narrowly. But yeah, it's early days, Shangji, and we're kind of just feeling our way through it. I'd love to hear if you have other recommendations or schemes that we could put our volunteers through, because we're really keen to, I mean, obviously retain them, but also make sure that when they do leave, they leave with a bunch of useful skills.
I think once you're up and running, we'll have a lot of opportunities as organizations to support the volunteers, young volunteers. As we are Sunshine of Hounslow, we are also supporting university students to come and learn the online skills like admin and applications. So at least while they are building their skills, they will also have an opportunity in future to work as like a few hours for organizations, either a paid worker, either a volunteers. So it's building up their confidence as they are very young students, can be 20, 22, 23. It's good, it's best opportunity for them to learn the skills and also teach the younger generation how to work and give something back to the community as well. Otherwise, at the moment, everybody wants some money. But at the moment, older people are working really hard without the support. We as organizations can do a lot more with the support, and we can give a lot more to the community because we are leading the projects with the support of the youngsters. My God, we will make a lot of difference. But we are there to support you to get the support back as well.
Thanks, Shanji. I'm going to have to move on because we've got such a packed agenda. I know lots of people have joined specifically to hear from Wanda about the large grants. She still hasn't joined, unfortunately. I know she's got IT problems. We can slot her back in later, so I'm hoping she can join later. But Tom, thank you very much. That was really interesting. Thank you. So now we're going to go over to Victoria from Prevent Project at Ealing Council. Are you on this call, Victoria? Can't actually see her name in the list. So, well, we've got still heaps more. So next on the agenda is Fazana from Cape. And this is just going to be a very quick introduction to say hi because she has taken over from Kelvin. And so it's just to remind everyone about the co-production charter. So Fazana.
Hi guys, sorry, I was on mute there. I was talking to myself. Sorry. Hi, I'm Fazana. I'm the co-production lead currently at Cape, and as Toby's mentioned, I've taken over Kelvin's role. So I'm not going to go into depth about the charter, but what I wanted to do was just mention it to everyone here because honestly, I can really do with everyone's help. What I'm proposing today is for a co-production charter to be jointly created between the various stakeholders in the borough. It should be about set out, among the other things, an agreed definition of co-production, an agreed approach to cooperation, coordination between services and client groups, as well as setting up our values and shared goals. Ideally, it should be a document that complements LBE's compact, which I believe is currently being reviewed and revised. In order for the co-production charter, it needs to be produced and created together by all the services in Ealing. So I need like everyone's help to have access. It would be really nice to have access to your clients and just find out how they're really feeling about the services that you guys are providing. Is there anything that we're missing? Is there something that we can hit harder? So that's really basically the lockdown on that. So if I was able to get a few clients from you guys, I wanna create and build a committee from the partner agencies is to bring together a group of 6 service users from across the borough of Ealing who will work together who will work with stakeholders to design and produce a co-production charter, which will form the basis from which co-production and more effective relationships in the field of mental health services provisions can happen in Ealing. So we all really want to work together with these clients and see like what else we can do for them. And yeah, I'll put my contact details in the chat. And if you feel like any of your service users feel like they want a voice, they want to talk about the service, and if you know that they know exactly what they want, it will be so nice to like hear from them, and if you can pass them my way, so I can like get this charter on the roll, basically.
Thanks, Fazana. When's the date that you're hoping the charter will be complete? Looking further down the road.
We have a provisional deadline by October to have it in, and I think it will be reviewed by December.
Right.
So although it seemed like a really long time, there's so much work to do. So we have to like interview them, assess them, revise, reflect. There's so much to do, minute takings, and then obviously work with you guys too. So I mean, everybody has different needs, and I'm going to be and I want to ensure that I'm able to, you know, provide that tailored service to everybody. I can go out to them, they can come to me, whatever works really.
Okay. Anyone got any questions for Fazana? No, can't see any hands up, but we'll keep this on the agenda ticking along and remind people at the next meeting and try and get some input behind this, because it's really important. We need to drive this all together, so we'll make sure we that's on our radar. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
No worries. So now we're going to hear from David Miller from Voiceability, which is the new advocacy service, which is currently serving Ealing. So it's a new organisation delivering advocacy service. So it'd be great to find out more. David?
David's not actually here. Hello, I'm Em, and Michelle has joined me as well. So we're the team leaders for the service.
Okay, hi, welcome.
So, yeah, David couldn't come, but he sent us instead, basically. So yes, myself and Michelle. So I'll just share my screen and bring up the presentation. Oh, it's doing that thing, isn't it? There we go. Okey-dokey. So, yeah, so we delivered the NHS Complaints Advocacy Service in Ealing. So we're really just going to give an overview of the service, who can access it, how we support, and just a bit of background really about the service. So just a little bit about Voiceability. So we are one of the country's most experienced NHS complaints advocacy providers. So we've been delivering it since its inception in 2006. We have supported the development of new advocacy guidance and the new Parliamentary Health Services Ombudsman Complaints Standards Framework. And the experience that we have has enabled us to develop our own advocacy model. So we focus on empowering people to self-advocate. And when they do want a bit more support from one of the advocates, we make sure that support is person-centered and appropriate to what they need. And we also aim to ensure that both the client and the advocate have absolute clarity on what it is we're supporting with and the boundaries and remit of that support, so that we can stay focused and deliver effective outcomes for our clients. And yeah, for anything that would fall outside of the advocacy role, we would ensure they were signposted or supported to access another service that was appropriate to meet those other needs. So our work is guided by the Advocacy Charter, which is a common vision of what constitutes effective advocacy, so that underpins all of our advocacy, kind of the ethos and the practice. So we also have the Advocacy Code of Practice, which basically outlines what the purpose of advocacy is and what falls within the remit of an advocate and what clients should expect. We also have some other practice guidance, so our action handbook to advocacy and the advocacy cycle, which kind of is guidance in terms of what the whole process of advocacy should look like for a client from start to finish. So we also hold the quality performance mark, which is the main mark of quality in the advocacy sector. So we are assessed by an outside body every 3 years, and we were granted it again in April 2020, following our most recent assessment. So that's, yeah, just a little bit about the background, and I think Michelle's going to take over from me here.
Yeah, we're going to try a bit of a double act because Em's much better at technology than I am. So she's going to go through the slides while I give an overview. We will give the slides to anybody who wants them afterwards. And I'm going to try my best not to give death by PowerPoint. So we can just move on to the next one, please, Em. So NHS complaints is available. Our service is available to anybody who is a resident of Ealing. They must have an Ealing postcode. They don't have to have had the treatment within Ealing. That can be anywhere within the country, but the criteria is that they must live in that area. And it's about any NHS service, and that could be if they're in a private hospital, but they're funded by the NHS. So it's primary, secondary care. It includes dental, pharmacy, GPs, hospitals. Do you have a question now? Can we leave that for the ND? You've got your hand up. And you're on mute.
I'll leave it till the end if you prefer. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. Keep going.
Yeah, lovely, thank you. We get the majority of our referrals are self-referrals. What we would like to see is an increase in referrals from organisations such as yourselves, because we feel that we're probably not reaching as many people as we could and should be. If I go on to the next slide, to give you a bit of a background about what advocates do, I know Em's touched on it. We don't tell people what to do. We give them information about the NHS complaints process and we support them to make a decision. We're not, I'll go on, that's on the next slide. We help them understand what options are available. We often get people who have got historic complaints. It's unlikely that an NHS provider would look at something that's over 12 months old. But we as NHS complaints advocates wouldn't tell someone that they can't do that. We'd manage their expectation. It's their complaint, not ours, and we support them in everything that they want to do regarding the complaint. We also explain what they can and can't achieve through the NHS complaints process because it is limited. We do get lots of people who come to us and they want financial compensation for medical negligence. They would have to go through a legal process to do that. They could make a complaint that runs parallel with it, but part of the remit of an NHS complaint is not to get financial compensation from medical negligence, and we can signpost to appropriate organisations that would help with that. So if we can go on to the next one, please. Just as important as what we do is what we don't do, and I'll just touch on a couple of those. We don't give legal advice. People seem to confuse independent advocates with legal advocates. We're not legally trained. We don't give legal advice. If a client comes to us wanting that, we would have to signpost them to the Law Society. And we also, as I've said previously, we don't give advice. That's outside of what we do. It's supporting people. With that, we do empower people to make their own decisions. So we'll handhold them throughout the process. Some people just need a light touch. Some people need more heavily involvement. So if we can go on to the next slide, please. We are a remote service, so we don't have a base in Ealing. We are spread throughout the country. We all work from home. None of us work from an office. So our support would be phone, email, Teams. And we find that is a really effective way of working. So we can attend meetings like we're doing here virtually. with people. So if they seek a resolution and they can attend something called a local resolution meeting, we can attend that virtually. And throughout COVID, that's worked really well. And I think a lot of NHS providers might stick with that model of delivery through the NHS complaints process. So if we can go on to the next one, please. And again, I've touched on the next slide talking about empowering people. What we have done, we've produced a resource and we call that our toolkit, which is available on the website, and we can direct people through the link to that. It really is a good resource. And for people who come to us, who are our clients, we can send them out a hard copy of the toolkit, but we don't have those available apart from to send to our clients. Next one, please. I think we're nearly at the end. This is just giving you a brief look of what the toolkit is, and we have that both in this format and we also have it in easy read. And on to the next. We have some stories. I'm not going to go through the stories because I'm aware there's a packed agenda. So if we can go through all those, which is why I've said I'll send you the slide, because the stories do give some meaning to what we're trying to tell you here. It gives you a flavour of what we do and what we can achieve. So there's our details, Michelle and Em. If you've got any questions, we're both happy to answer them now. If you want to contact us afterwards, please do. Yeah, that's the presentation. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much. Yeah, if you send me that presentation, I can send it around. Yeah, it's really interesting. Thank you for joining us. And again, it would be great to invite you back in a couple of months' time, if that was possible, because there's so much to unpack and think about in regards to advocacy, and it'd be really good to kind of read those case studies. And I'm sure everyone will have, like me, lots of questions further down the line. But let's pick up some of these questions now. So Deirdre, you've got a question.
Yeah, oh good, I'm not on mute, that's good. Yeah, just asking you, Michelle, I work with carers of people with mental health problems and have done for many years in Ealing. I'm just thinking of one particular complaint. So it would be when you said it had to be an Ealing postcode, that's of the, as it were, the complainant, yes?
Of the complainant. So if the carer resides in Ealing and they've got an Ealing postcode and they're making the complaint, then we could take that. If they reside outside of Ealing, we don't. The person with the mental health problems, if you're supporting with that and the person resides in, it's complex, but it's what the law says on how we can take a referral. It's not something that Voiceability do, it's within the NHS constitution. So if the person with a mental health problem has an Ealing postcode, we can certainly take that complaint.
But if the service user doesn't have an Ealing postcode, but the
complainant does,
then what?
Then we'd have to look at that carefully, because some NHS providers will take that, some won't. So if they reside and they're making the complaint on behalf of that person who is unable to make the complaint themselves, then we would take that.
Yeah, just to add on to that, so the advocacy service, this particular one is a statutory service. So even if they fall outside of one of the areas that we cover, there will be another provider who can support them. So it's not that they're left without any support at all. We would be able to signpost them if appropriate to their local provider.
Right. I mean, their point is that quite a lot of our people are carers, and somebody is in supported housing, say, and it often isn't in the borough. It may be paid for by the borough, but they are not physically there. But it seems to me if the carer lives in Ealing, it's worth a try then.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, we're very happy to talk people through their individual situations and work out how best, what's the best option for them with support.
And is there, as you are a statutory service, I'm thinking of one particular one where it took well over a year to get any attention much paid to the complaint at all, and it was very unsatisfactory. Is that normal, over a year?
It is. What we used to have 30 days for an NHS provider to respond. During COVID, that's gone to 60 days, and we're often seeing it much longer. the advantage of coming through ourselves rather than doing it themselves is that we can press and push much more than maybe the complainant can, because we understand that even if someone is degree educated, even if someone has got the best verbal skills going, when they want to make an NHS about an NHS complaint, often they're overwhelmed, really stressed, and they just need that extra support to help through that. So that's where we come in.
Yeah, and just to add to that, it doesn't matter what stage someone's at with their NHS complaint. When they do come to us or another advocacy provider, they can have that service. So even if they've actually submitted a complaint themselves and they're happy with that, maybe it's gone to the next stage and they're not sure what to do next, they can still approach us and still get advocacy if they want, or we can just talk them through what the next steps would be so they know where to go next. So yeah, it doesn't matter at what point they're at in their complaint.
And just adding to that is, if a person is in hospital and they want to make a complaint whilst they're in hospital, we would encourage them to talk to PALS, because that is more immediate. The NHS complaint processes, as you've just highlighted, can be a very long process. So if they're looking for a quick fix, something immediate, it's not an NHS complaint process, that's for them. And we would signpost them to PALS.
Okay, we better move on. Anna, you've got your hand up. Nice to see you. What's your question?
Hi everyone. After break, I would like to say that I only work 1 day per week. I'm still suffering long COVID, so it's it's been really long time, nearly 1 year. So hi everyone, nice to see you. So I have a suggestion and maybe a request regarding advocacy services. What would be very helpful for community organizations to get translated leaflet. I know it's about finances, but advocacy, advocate in Polish means solicitor. So especially in your case, like advocacy about regarding complaint, and when people expect, you know, maybe this to be taken to the court, when they see the word advocacy, they will think it's really solicitors. So I think what would be very helpful to spread the information through like Polish organization. And I have a suspicion that this might not be only in Polish, that the word advocate means solicitor. So just a tip and request, because it would be much helpful throughout community organizations to have a leaflet translated, and then even online, we run an online portal, that, you know, online directory. So it would be helpful to put information, but this online portal is only in Polish, mainly in Polish, for people to get, you know, description how the support system works in UK. So just if there would be any funding on your side, just to have translations, general support, and what it is, what advocacy is, because many people don't understand this. Thank you.
Yeah. We do have leaflets in a number of different languages, so we can arrange for them to be sent out. So if you want to pop us an email or something, then we can arrange for some leaflets, that's certainly digital to start with at least. But yeah, no, we are very aware of that. The website is translatable into a number of different languages. There's just a little button at the top of our website. It's on all of the pages of the site where it can be translated into quite a few different languages. But yeah, no, certainly happy to get those leaflets out to you.
Thank you.
Lovely, thanks. Okay, thank you very much, Emily and Michelle, and it'd be great if you can come back another time. Oh, Matt, you're back. Matthew Coulomb, I saw you had your hand up earlier. I don't know if you had a question.
Yeah,
quick question.
It was just a very brief question about the about eligibility, because we have had some issues where people have been housed in temporary accommodation by a local authority in a neighbouring borough. But I think it's because it's NHS, I think it's separate rules that apply, isn't it, when it comes to that?
It is. So even if they're temporarily placed in another borough, it would be the advocacy organisation in the borough where they're resident.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay, cool. Right, so now we're going to move on to the Ealing Large Grants Programme. I know lots of people wanted to join to find out about this, but Wanda still hasn't been able to join due to IT issues, but Bushra is going to talk us through it. And I've got the PowerPoint, so I'm just going to share my screen. And yeah, Bushra, thank you very much for stepping in. Bushra is the Mental Health Commissioner at Ealing. So yeah, Bushra. Bushra, are you there? Oh dear, I think we've got lots of gremlins in the system today. Bushra? No. Okay. Oh, I see. See, she's just saying give her a moment. Okay. So we have also got lined up after Bushra is the adult inpatient mental health reprovision. We're going to find out about that. But I'll share my screen again and we'll see if Bushra's ready. Bushra, are you okay now? No, maybe I better put this to the end. Okay.
Hi everyone, I'm so
right.
sorry. We are having a major IT disaster today, as you can probably tell.
Gremlins.
But I'm here now. So hi everyone, I'm Bushra Anwar. I'm the Mental Health Commissioner for Ealing. That's Ealing slipped my mind for a second. Toby, could you make the screen like a screen, what do you call it, presentation mode, please? Unfortunately, I'm really sorry that Wanda wasn't able to come today. She was the one who was meant to be doing this presentation. She's having really big IT issues, so I'll be doing this presentation instead. I probably won't have all the answers because some of the information and everything that she's in charge of. However, I'll talk through as much as I can. And if you have any questions, please do ask them and I'll try to get back to you either in the meeting or via email.
I think I need to save it as a different file to do as a presentation.
Oh, that's fine, then I can manage.
Yeah, okay, all right.
That's fine, thank you. Great, so just to talk through this, so we've just launched the Mental Health Large Grants Program on Monday. It went live on the Ealing Council website. And I think Toby, when you send the slides across, if you can just also send the link that Wanda may have sent you previously, that would be really helpful. So could you go to the next slide, please? So this, just as with West London Mental Health Trust, we're just following the NHS long-term plan. And the aim of the plan is to really ensure that it's called the neighborhood approach, that to make very strong community-focused mental health programs to ensure that everybody is able to access mental health support in their local area, within their own community. They're able to have equal access and to reduce inequality in access in different areas as well. So within, I suppose, a 15 minutes local area, people should be able to offer access to psychological therapies, improve physical health care, employment support, trauma support, medication management, self-harm management, etc. So this kind of funding was just coming from that same priority. If you go into the next slide, please. Again, so the offer, when you think about what offer we can have with this funding, it should be, again, neighborhood approach. It should be very timely, high quality support, and also increase partnership working. So making sure that you're able to work across different organizations or work across on grassroots organizations with VSA and also be very inclusive. So are you able to reach BME populations, LGBTQ, neurodiverse populations, older people, addressing racial inequalities and the social determinants of mental health as well. Also, the aim is that if you're able to kind of give different ways of accessing, whether it's digital, direct or indirect methods of support. Next slide, please. Yeah, again, I think one thing that we really realized during COVID was the importance of face-to-face, the importance of community-based support, where especially with big towns and cities where movement has slowed down. So as I mentioned before, with the 15-minute community, really the aim is that everybody, wherever they are based, whoever they see on a daily basis, they should be able to receive that support. So really the focus and the priority of this funding stream is to make sure that every area across Ealing, people are able to, no matter which background they're from, no matter which area they're from, they're able to access the same amount of support as anybody else across the borough or across England. Yep, next slide, please. And just the next slide. So just to talk about the main areas that this funding is focused on, we have two different streams. One is for £164,000, and it's for adults and older adults. And there's a separate £72,000 pot for young people. And you're welcome to apply to both, as long as you're able to kind of prove that you'll be helping both these populations. So the main areas are services that provide, improving the mental well-being of local BME populations, or culturally appropriate therapeutic support to people who have experienced trauma, particularly with migratory trauma, or people whose first language is not English. It could be to support the health and mental well-being of residents who identify as LGBTQ, or to help improve the health and well-being of those with physical as well as mental learning disabilities or neurodevelopmental disabilities. And across these four priority areas, all programs must ensure that they're able to support everyone with access to engagement, access to local services, activities, engagement with their GP or with the primary care services, making sure that there are safe community spaces for them, and making sure that you're providing community supportive community spaces, and helping residents engage with health services and any local activities. And the fifth one, which is the separate pot of money, which is for young people, is to improve students and young people's mental health. So this could be, including youth offending, criminal justice, youth violence, or just improving access to services, linking in with educational settings, or early support with the community. And as I mentioned, you're welcome to apply to both. However, it has to be outlined separately who you're applying for and how you'll be helping them. Next slide. So this is a bit of a financial breakdown, and you will get all this information through the slides, and it's all on Ealing Council website as well. But just to quickly run through it, for proposals up to £10,000, you have to be covering at least one objective and support at least one population. If you're applying for between 10 to 20,000, you have to cover a minimum of at least two objectives. And it's encouraged, but not mandatory, to collaborate with another VSE organization. You can apply for up to £50,000 as long as you're covering a minimum of 3 objectives and you're providing a collaborative approach across a number of local VCSE organizations and grassroots organizations. And you can apply for up to £30,000 towards revenue projects, which again must be a collaborative approach across a number of VSE organizations. And again, with all of these, they have to be providing expertise to a large proportion of the borough's population. You are able to collaborate with an organization outside of the borough as long as you're supporting Ealing residents. And for, just go back, and for the children's application, the proposals are up to £24,000, and this must be in collaboration with other VCSE organizations. Thank you. And so this is just, I think, just more detail on it. Again, when you come, with your application, we really want to see partnerships with local health services. You can team up with organizations outside the borough, as I mentioned. If you are seeking to address multiple objectives across areas 1 to 4, please do elaborate how you're going to be able to meet the needs of these different communities with very different varying groups, and how you'll be working with different organizations, and how each organization might be working towards an objective, etc. We will consider bids from larger organizations as long as you're able to display how you're going to be building an alliance with many groups across the borough to make sure that community needs at the very grassroots levels are being met. And also, how are you helping people who may have been excluded in the past within those 4 key priority areas? We really want to see how families, carers, support systems will be involved, how culturally appropriate, ways that you can work with different populations, etc. If you're able to, for example, think about programs that might reduce stigma related to mental health, especially with different groups, etc., in a very culturally appropriate way, that would be really, really helpful. Thanks. Next one. Again, just some more detail. If you just go to the next slide. Again, we're considering measures. What measures are you going to be using? If you're going to be very specific in your application, so instead of saying, we will be helping people and hoping for better mental health, it'll be really good if you're going to talk about how you're going to be doing it, whether you're using well-being scales, dialogue scales, etc. So please do write, we aim to use this kind of scale, and we want to see these type of interventions coming up. The next one. You will be having, obviously, regular monitoring meetings, quarterly monitoring meetings, and these will be held with the trust. You will be required to collect data according to GDPR, the number of people that you'll be helping, etc., the different ethnicities and populations served, the different NHS-funded mental health services, etc. But all this information is there. Next one. Yep, next one, please. If you want to have any sort of discussions with anybody, then please do. There's email some email address on the last slide. Please do reach out to your local Mint teams. I know Will was in the meeting earlier, etc., and there are a couple of other people who work in the Mint team. Please do reach out to your local Mint team to get help and any sort of advice. If you want the application form, they're on the council website, as I said, and they must be submitted to an email address, which is on the website, VCS funding. If you just want to have general advice about the suitability or to talk through your proposal before you submit it, please email the Mint team, which is John, Daniel, William, or Craig on it for any sort of help. And next slide. And just the last one, which is just some timelines, which is, it was launched on 24th, which is Monday. Applications are due on the 7th of March, so it gives you 6 weeks to do your applications. No late applications will be accepted. Between 8th and 21st of March, we will be reviewing it, and if we have any questions, we will get back to you on the 21st of March. We will be interviewing you to kind of get some further answers that we're clarifying. We are hoping that if you're successful on the 28th of March, we will be giving you the funding, and this will last till end of March 2023, so 1 financial year with 4 quarterly review periods in between. And again, just some of your local Mint teams for Ealing North, Ealing, South Holland, Ealing, Acton for any other advice or support.
Thanks, Bushra. Anyone got any questions? Can't see any.
I know Farzana just asked if she can share the presentation. Yes, please, we will share the presentation.
Yeah. Richard's
the
got a
link
question.
to the direct link as well to the Ealing website.
Richard, do you want to ask your question?
Yes. Do I understand it correctly that we want, with a 15-minute community, we want delivery for each of the themes, each of the areas. So LGBT delivery, for example, in multiple places across the borough, so that it is within 15 minutes. Likewise, the BAME and other delivery. Is that what we're actually saying here? Because yeah.
Well, so that was a general agenda for the NHS long-term plan that I was talking about. So the idea was to make sure that we have it all over England, to make sure that people are able to access support services wherever they are. It doesn't mean that for you or in your application, you have to do it within 15 minutes, because that would obviously be very difficult. But that was a general idea to make sure that we're embedded all across our local communities. So for example, if you're applying for the LGBT one, it would just be within Ealing. So don't worry about exact area, but the idea is really you want to show that how people who are LGBT or neurodiverse or BME populations are able to access support wherever they are. So for example, if you were to apply one for, let's say, Acton, or if you're based in Acton, you can say that, well, I want to make sure that we have enough safe spaces for people to access, or we're going to help people across our area to access health support services, etc. So you just really want to focus on that, and it doesn't have to be within a confined area. if that makes any sense.
Yeah, thanks.
Latvia, you've got your hand up.
Hi, you're on mute, I think.
Gosh, the typical thing. It's Latvia from Each Counselling Support. Kind of a question, I think. This actually doesn't seem like a lot of money, but the ask seems quite big. Particularly if you're trying to reach across the borough, across all the the different elements that you've mentioned. Can I ask you how much of this would be a numbers game, and how much of this would be about the quality? Because sometimes the two don't square up. So in terms of what you would be considering, is it about the reach and a number of people who get through the service or the support that you might be thinking of, or is there actually some sense of about the quality, which might require depth and so not so many numbers?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And you're absolutely correct that it does seem quite difficult within that, which is an ongoing challenge with funding. I would say a mixture of both. It's not purely numbers based, but we do really want to see that you're able to kind of provide a very quality service to whoever might need it. So obviously with let's say it's people with English if not a first language, or BME populations, or anything, we just want to really see that you've thought of a program, or you're able to reach people who might not have been able to reach these programs otherwise, or who might not have support for different reasons. So I mean, I would say don't focus too much on numbers, but it should really be about, are you really able to kind of engage with communities that we want to, or engage with people who might have difficulties in engaging otherwise, or be able to create those spaces.
Okay, thank you. Deborah, you've got your hand up.
Yes. Hi, Bushra.
Hi.
Hi. So the one with trauma and migrants, would that be? And obviously we're talking therapies. Would that be looking for therapists that can speak the native tongue of, the key migrants, if you like, for this borough?
I think that really would, depend on the type of program as well. So for example, if you're talking about migration, it's obvious, we are looking for something very culturally supportive or culturally appropriate. So if you're able to say that, well, we will consult with people, or we will consult with, with members of that community to kind of co-produce a model of care that's really helpful in a very culturally, spiritually sensitive way, etc. That would be really helpful for us to see, if you were to able to demonstrate an understanding of how you'll help them. With terms of language, I know it's not always easy to hire people or to find the people who have the right skills and the right language, and we completely understand those limitations as well. And often it's not even, and often like somebody might have the right language but not have the right skill or even the right experience, of, let's say, of migration or being a refugee or something like that. But it's also sometimes just the experience that might match. So I think really just demonstrate an understanding that, yes, we will be able to help by through a method of co-production, etc., by listening to organizations, by, co-producing what might work with them. We will try our best maybe to find people who speak the same language or to use them as interpreters. But it doesn't have to necessarily, I would say, be that you have to hire somebody of that language. Useful, but not necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Pauline, you're next with your question. Pauline, I see you got your hand up.
I'm just on, yeah, sorry, it's just I'm on a small screen, so I just had to click around a bit to get the menu up. Hi, I'm working with a fairly new organisation called AJ Sport London. They've been working, they've been delivering for at least 7 years in Nottingham, but they've also, they're from Greenford, and because of COVID, they've had a delay in kind of starting up in their delivery because there's lots of restrictions, so that delayed their start date. So they're a fairly new organisation that's been delivering in Greenford, because that's where they're from and based, so they know that community really well, for the last just over 6 months. So I just wondered kind of whether they would be, obviously they have got a track record, they're working in partnership with local schools, and just hopefully, even though they haven't been delivering for a long time, they have, in that particular area, they've got that expertise, because other members of the organisation have been delivering for a long time in Nottingham. So I just wondered how that would be received. And obviously they've got really good feedback already from parents and partners on what they're delivering. So yeah, just wanted to know what your thoughts were about that.
I believe if you were to go on the council website and click on the link, there is a document that has a necessary minimum requirement. I don't know at the top of my head, but there is something about the type of organization, etc. And it has to be, like, for example, incorporated and things like that. So if you just have a look on there, you might be able to get some more guidance about, I mean, I know that it has to have like a board of trustees and things like that, etc. So just if you have a look there, and I will send the link across to Toby for that. But that might help you. Sorry, I don't know. I can't remember the top of my head. I don't want to say anything that's incorrect.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, they're a CIC, so they've been a CIC for over 7 years, and have all their safeguarding training and policies and procedures in place. Been delivering kind of quality services in with other partners such as area lead organisations, local authorities. So they've already got a strong relationship, and that partnership working across a wide field of partners. It's just obviously they're just building that up in Greenford and across Ealing at the moment. But obviously because they're young people themselves, so they've with young families, so that they've got that insight and knowledge into the local community and those connections with the local community.
So we better just move on to the last 2 questions. We've got Mamta and Matthew, and then we're going to have to move on, squeeze in our last presentation. We might have to run 5 minutes over, but Mamta, would you like to give your question? Mamta?
You're muted.
Actually, I can see she's not muted. As the symbol's not, maybe she's having more gremlins today. Matthew, should we move to you and your question?
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
That's a relief. Okay, good. Yes, just really had a couple of questions. One of them was in the first category, which is covering improving the mental well-being of the local BAME population. It mentions access to local services. Would that specifically be mental health services? I mean, I'm here representing the Ealing Advice Service, also at Ealing MENCAP. In last quarter, we saw about 1,600 people. We had contact with 1,600 residents of the borough, and 17% of those people had a mental health condition. We currently measure mental health outcomes, like things like reduced stress, better general life circumstances, all that sort of stuff. But the vast majority of the work that we do isn't referring to mental health services. We do that, but the vast majority of the work that we do that does have an impact on people's mental health is relating to housing issues, or it's relating to benefits issues, or even travel concessions if they're isolated and they've not been able to see friends and family. So in that first section, is it a general access to services, or is it specifically focusing on mental health?
I think with mental health, it's kind of related to everything. Your mental health is, everything is, impacts your mental health. So I would say anything that is related to kind of improving a quality of life, right? So supporting, so whether it's access to employment or education or, or health services, etc. But as long as you can prove that it improves somebody's quality of life and access to or engagement with the world around them, because I think sometimes the world can be, or society can be a little bit isolating for people who may not speak the language or may have, different levels of social isolation. So any program that helps them integrate more with wider society and supports them.
Okay, so I guess it's more about the outcome and measuring the impact than it is about the routes to getting there. Okay, that makes sense. The other thing is more of a sort of a practical thing when it comes to partnership and consortia applications. Now, is there any sort of minimum requirement when it comes to consortia or partnerships? So does there need to be evidence of due diligence? Does there need to be a service level agreement? Does there need to be evidence of sort of like subcontracting arrangements or anything like that at all? Or is it is that detailed in the, I need to have a look through actually and see if there's anything there, but I couldn't really see too much about that.
That's a good question. I'm not sure of the answer. I can say Nitika from West London Trust if you want to answer that question. And it might be in the documents on the website, but I'm afraid I'm not sure of the exact detail of that.
Okay, I'll have another look through, and I might send a message if an email or something if it's not in there.
Okay, we're going to have to move on because time's against us, and we've got our final presenters. God, it really has been a jam-packed agenda today. So we have got Nitika and Samira and Linda. They are going to be talking about the adult inpatient mental health reprovision in Ealing. And so I hope everyone doesn't mind if we run over just 5 minutes more or so, just because yeah, they've been dying to get everyone's feedback on this. So yeah, over to you guys.
Great. Hi, thanks so much. It's a Friday afternoon and I'm mindful that we don't, we're not going to do a long presentation or a discussion, but we'd like to come back and have a more detailed conversation with you. So my name is Samira. I'm working with West London Trust around facilitating engagement in relation to mental health provision of beds in Ealing. What I'm going to do is probably just given the very short time that we've got, is probably ask Nitika to present just to give you an overview of the work that we're trying to do. And then maybe just a couple of questions at the end, and then we can come back to a much more detailed conversation afterwards. Just to say, this is one of the very first, this is the second conversation we're having about this. So it's very, very early stages, and we're really keen to get as much feedback to really help us actually kind of shape what the plans and the proposals look like. So Nitika, do you want to go through the next couple of slides?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Just very quickly introducing myself. So I'm Nitika Mahan. I'm Director of Transformation at West London Trust. And we are here to talk about the Ealing mental health beds, as Samira's just outlined. We've prepared a few slides, but what we're really after is a conversation and feedback from people. So I'll quickly go through the slides. We can share them after the meeting as well. So this is very much about Hope and Horizon wards, which were temporarily suspended around end of Feb, beginning of March 2020, when the COVID pandemic first started. And the reason for doing that was for us to make sure that we had safer staffing, and also we were able to follow rigorous infection prevention control measures, which we weren't able to on those pre-Victorian sort of buildings these wards were located on. Since we stopped using Hope and Horizon, we have reinvested and added more to our other services. So we reopened an 18-bedded ward, which is called Robin Ward. It's a much more modern facility. We've also added additional rooms to our health-based place of safety and have dedicated 24/7 staffing for those. And we are also working with our local authority colleagues in having a supply of local step-down beds that allow people to move closer to home, following their stay in the inpatient acute wards and promote their journey better. Can we move on to the next slide, please? This is just really to show what good inpatient environment looks like, and it comes from the Royal College of Psychiatry guidance. So we've just listed some of the key points there. And you may know this, but mental health wards can be where people spend sometimes up to a few months being on them as well. So the environment really has to be right. It has to have ensuite bedrooms, outdoor access to a garden space, and also the therapeutic environment that promotes recovery, but also reduces any risk of harm or self-harm that people can do in that environment. Next slide, please. This is just really showing Hope and Horizon didn't really have those recommended kind of inpatient environments. And this is something that keeps coming up in terms of our inspection reports that CQC has done. And we've just pulled out some of the key things that has been regularly featuring in those CQC reports. And because of the nature of that building and how old it is, unfortunately, despite all the work that we have done over the years in maintaining those buildings, we cannot eliminate all of the issues that these wards present to us. Next slide, please. This is just really in terms of, this is our attempt to show that we have been transforming mental health services over the last 10 years. We've added a number of new services, and it was really good to have the conversation just before this one about the investments we are making in the borough to encourage third sector organizations to work with us, especially around improving access and outcomes for those from marginalized communities. Next slide, please. So this I've already outlined. We are using the money that from Hope and Horizon at the moment in terms of this provision, alternative provision at the moment. And we really think it's much better suited to meeting people's needs and has that range that you need in order to make sure that people are recovering and have the right care accessible to them. Next slide, please. So this is an overview of how we compare against other areas and also nationally in terms of number of beds per 100,000 weighted population. This comes from a standard benchmarking report that NHS does and is released every year. And here we're showing that we have about 20 beds per 100,000 weighted population for Ealing, Hounslow, and Hammersmith and Fulham boroughs. And we have always operated our beds as a 3-borough trust footprint level sort of operational process. Next slide, please. This slide shows the number of beds that are there in the borough of Ealing. The ones in blue are the ones that are provided by the trust. So it shows that even though they, with the closure of Hope and Horizon wards, we wouldn't have the adult mental health beds, but there is a wider pool of beds available in Ealing. And then in addition to that, we have got the remaining bed base that the trust provides on adult acute and the other boroughs as well. Next slide, please. So this shows a complement of all the different services that we have in the borough. Right from when people, require mental health assistance through the early intervention service to when someone's presenting in crisis and needs a bed, and also towards the end of their pathway when they're recovering and are ready to be in their homes. We have a full list on our website as well. So as I was saying, so where we are now, we have 3 scenarios that we think we have open to us. And scenario 1A and 1B are really the same. So they are about making Hope and Horizon more suitable as a therapeutic environment. And we are really limited in terms of doing so. So scenario 1B is just making sure that we do some of the basic work that's needed to bring it to an acceptable standards, and that requires an investment that we put in there. But if we were to completely renovate the building, that would be an additional 15 to 20 million pounds, which we do not have access to. And scenario B is we keep the arrangements and the provision the same way, which would allow us to have a better provision of care as we've just outlined. So these are just the scenarios that we think we have. It will be good to hear what people's views on that are. And I think I just had one more slide. So we've been looking at what has happened since Hope and Horizon wards have been suspended in terms of travel times and the distance for people to access adult acute inpatient wards. And we so based on our analysis, it has shown that for Ealing users, there is anywhere between half a mile to a mile net distance impact. And in terms of the travel times, it could be anywhere between 2 to 15 minutes, depending on the mode of journey and where you are in the borough. And in terms of the impact of care, we haven't seen any increase in people we've had to put outside in beds outside of the trust areas, and we haven't seen any evidence of increased length of stay for Ealing patients who are admitted to Charing Cross or the Lakeside units. And we've also listed there all the issues that we have heard from the users, carers, families about Hope and Horizon ward, when we had previously done lots of co-production work on that in 2017. So with that, I think we just wanted to say that we're at the beginning of this engagement process, as Samira was just outlining. We can come back for a more detailed discussion. I think over to you, Samira. I think you were facilitating.
Yeah, so I think just given the time, we'll probably just have 5 minutes and then we can come back to a more detailed.
Yes, that would be great if you could come back. Yes,
yeah.
So did you want the 5 minutes for the questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think just there was one question, Nitika, if you can just in the chat box in terms of the beds, the number of beds and the benchmarking. And question from Richard was, what's the London average for? Is that in relation to London average, or it's something that we can come back and actually provide information for?
Yeah, my question was, so my question, you said that you had average of 20 per 100,000, which is better than the 18 nationally. So I was just asking what the London comparative was.
We know the London number as well. I can get that to you, but nationally there can be anywhere between 15 to 21 and the average is 18.
Okay, Deirdre. Sorry.
Yeah, hi Nitika, we have met in the past.
Hi Deirdre, it's good to see you.
Hello. I work, as you know, with carers in Ealing, carers of people with mental health problems. I wanted to know where is Robin Ward?
Yeah, Robin Ward is on the Lakeside Mental Health Unit, which is co-located with Westmid Hospital.
Right, so that's quite a long way for people to visit Lakeside or Charing Cross. And this has a big impact on care, excuse me, on carers. So that's one point I wanted to make.
Sure.
So sorry. And also, what does it leave? Perhaps I'm being stupid here, but what does it leave in terms of acute beds on the Ealing site, on the St Bernard's site? Anything apart from forensic and secure, just ordinary acute
and the older adult mental health beds also remain. Yeah,
older adults, but nothing else for not older adults then.
For working age adults, the provision is across Charing Cross and Lakeside.
So I'm right in thinking that this has a big impact on carers and service users in Ealing, potentially. Well, already, I guess, given that they've been suspended.
So as I just mentioned in our slides, so we have looked at the distance and the time impact. So the distance impact ranges anywhere between half a mile to a mile.
Not true from Ealing to Hammersmith, is it?
So I think Ealing is a big borough, and I think some of that is about which postcodes people are needing a bed from as well. So we've looked at the people who've used these beds and gone to these Charing Cross or Lakeside facilities.
Which makes it very retrospective and not necessarily about what future needs might be. And I would agree that to say it's half a mile and not very significant is not maybe the reality for some people, because given, you know, just to get anywhere in Ealing is difficult as a borough as it is. And can I ask a question really?
Yes, please go through. This can be our last one.
I think what came through for me in terms of the option, that preferred option, is that the cost is minimal, but what it does mean there's a reduction in beds. So is that the payoff that the trust is going for? And not necessarily.
I did not say, sorry, that there was a preferred option. We just laid out 3 scenarios that are there, and And generally, there isn't money available for us to do the refurbishment or renovation.
Okay, so if that's, sorry, I just want to understand this a little bit better. So if the funding isn't there, the money isn't there, if the option was one of the ones, like 101, 1 and 1A, would the money become available? And if it's not going to become available, then by default, the other option becomes the viable one. And I think I have an issue in terms of that. If people are moved more out of the borough, it makes it more difficult to reconnect them into the borough and the support services that are available in the borough. So I'd be very interested to understand and see how that kind of, discharge pathway would work to enable people to reconnect to their communities and their families, and also have that sustained recovery as well.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm just mindful of the time, and I wonder, because these are really, really quite critical.
Let's get you back in February in a few weeks' time, and we'll give this a lot more airtime because we can't just skip through this, but at least we've kind of introduced you, and yes, let's definitely pick this up again in February.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining, and yes, see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Well done, Toby.
Thank you.